All right, so today we're doing a deep dive into some really interesting stuff.
Okay.
You sent over this conversation from the Mastering English with SK and Pari podcast,
Yes.
and you're looking to learn English. You want to improve your English skills, and we want to make sure that we can give you some actionable stuff here so that you don't feel overwhelmed.
Right.
And so this is a great conversation. It has the host, SK, and he's talking to Pari, and she has some really down-to-earth advice for learning English.
Yes, she does. It's a really encouraging roadmap, I think, for anybody who wants to improve their English.
So, okay, why learn English in the first place?
Right.
I mean, Pari, right off the bat, she makes this very clear. It's a global language.
Absolutely.
And she talks about how it's, so essential for, career opportunities, for traveling, for connecting with people internationally, and even just for, enjoying a wider range of media.
Yeah.
Like, think about how much stuff is out there in English.
Oh, so much.
So, for you thinking about your career growth, she specifically mentions that, English proficiency is becoming, increasingly required in a lot of fields.
Yes. And what I really appreciate is how she focuses on English being a tool for engagement,
Right.
rather than just like a subject to study.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important shift in perspective because it can make the whole learning process feel a lot more relevant to people.
Yeah, I mean, so for people just starting out, it can feel like a really huge task, right? And Bari suggests, like, break it down, make it manageable.
Okay.
Incorporate English into your daily life in small doses.
Right.
Little things like listening to English content, on YouTube or podcasts, or even just changing the language on your phone.
Yeah.
Little things like that can really build momentum.
Right.
But a key piece of advice that she gives is to start speaking a little each day, even if it's just short sentences. And this really, speaks to your desire for, practical, manageable steps.
Yes. And it actually aligns really well with how we naturally acquire language.
Okay.
It's about active use, getting comfortable with the language in real time instead of just memorizing rules in isolation.
And here's something kind of counterintuitive.
Okay.
Perry actually advises focusing on speaking before getting bogged down in grammar.
Interesting.
She thinks that, grammar understanding will develop more naturally as you practice speaking. And plus, she normalizes making mistakes.
Yeah.
She says that's a, crucial part of learning, so that should take some of the pressure off.
Yeah, that's so valuable because, so many learners are really hindered by that fear of not being perfect.
Right.
And so seeing errors as learning opportunities, is key to progress.
So what are some of the resources that she recommends, tapping into?
Right.
She says for improving listening skills, watching English movies with subtitles is a great way to go.
Okay.
And for reading simple storybooks are a good entry point.
Mm-hmm.
And then for helpful apps, she mentions Duolingo and BBC Learning English.
Oh, yeah, those are good.
As good options. And, you could explore those right away.
Absolutely. And they're accessible resources, and they really reinforce Perry's practical, no barriers approach to getting started.
And when it comes to actually practicing speaking, she has some very doable suggestions.
Okay.
Finding a language exchange partner, participating in online communities. I mean, there's so many out there now.
So many.
And even just recording yourself speaking to identify areas for improvement, it's that consistent daily practice that she really emphasizes.
That self-recording could be really powerful.
Yeah.
Because it allows for this self-assessment,
Right.
that provides insights you might not get otherwise.
But let's talk about that fear of speaking that you mentioned. And Podbean, tackles this head on.
Okay.
She reframes mistakes instead of seeing them as failures.
Right.
She encourages focusing on the progress that you are making. But here's a tip that could really change things.
Okay.
She suggests trying to think directly in English.
Wow.
Rather than translating everything from your native language.
Okay.
She believes that this can significantly boost fluency.
That's a really interesting concept.
It's a shift in mindset, and it can be a real game changer.
Yeah, I can see how that could be really helpful because you're not getting bogged down in that translation process.
Right.
You're really streamlining that communication.
Exactly.
And that can really accelerate fluency.
So to sum up Pari's core message,
Okay.
be consistent with your practice. Try to enjoy the learning process. See it as something fun, not stressful.
Right.
And that will help you stay motivated and engaged in the long run.
Yeah, because, that approach fosters a more sustainable
Right.
and enjoyable learning journey.
Exactly. So for you, the listener,
Okay.
Here's something to consider.
Okay.
Based on Pari's advice,
Yeah.
what's one small step you can take today
Right.
to move forward with your English learning?
Mm.
Was there a specific resource that she mentioned that sparked your interest?
Yeah.
Maybe start there.
Taking even a single manageable action today
Yeah.
can create significant momentum. So what will that be for you?
What will that be for you?